Hey everyone and welcome. Today we're going to peel back the curtain and go deep inside the engine room of the Indian government. We're going to meet the A team, that's the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers, and really figure out how they run the whole country. So let's just jump right in with a big question. When you think about who's in charge of India, one person's face probably pops into your head, right? But is it really just one person calling all the shots? Well, the answer is actually a lot more interesting than you might think. And here's the real deal. The actual executive power, the real authority, rests with this group, the Council of Ministers. Think of it like the entire government squad, with the Prime Minister as the captain. Now, they're officially appointed by the president, but it's all on the PM's advice. Together, they are the ones actually steering the ship of the state. All right, so we've got this big team, but here's the thing. Not everyone plays the same position or has the same level of seniority. The Council of Ministers is actually broken down into 3 different tiers. Understanding this structure is absolutely key to figuring out how decisions really get made. So this hierarchy breaks down pretty simply. At the very top, you have the cabinet ministers. Think of them as the star players, the seniors who handle the most critical jobs. We're talking defense, finance, home affairs, the big stuff. Below them, you have the ministers of state, who are like the essential supporting players. And finally, you've got the deputy ministers. They're the junior members, learning the ropes and assisting the senior ministers. Okay, pay close attention, because this difference is absolutely crucial, and it's a favorite topic in exams. The Council of Ministers is the entire team, all 60 or 70 of them from all 3 tiers. But the cabinet? That's the inner circle. It's a small, powerful group of just the most senior ministers who meet all the time to make the biggest decisions. So while on paper the power belongs to the whole council, in reality, the cabinet is where all the action happens. Now, of course, every A team needs a captain, and in this government, that's the Prime Minister, no question. Their role is completely central to everything. So let's open up the captain's playbook and take a look at the incredible powers they have. As the captain, the Prime Minister literally picks their own team. They decide who gets to be a minister, they hand out the different departments, and they can shuffle them around anytime they want. They could even ask a minister to step down. And get this is the ultimate show of authority. If the Prime Minister resigns, the entire team has to resign with them. The whole government falls. But the PM's job isn't just about managing the team. Oh no, they wear a ton of other really important hats. They're the main advisor to the president, the key link between the president and the cabinet, and the #1 spokesperson for the government. When you see India represented on the world stage, that's the Prime Minister. They are the voice and face of the nation. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the captain, but a captain is only as good as their core team, right? So let's zoom in on the cabinet now and look at their collective game plan. What are their biggest responsibilities in actually running the country? The cabinet is basically the command center. They are the ones who come up with all the major policies, both for inside the country and for our relationships with other nations. They're also responsible for making all the major appointments. We're talking governors, ambassadors, even Supreme Court judges. And if there's ever a national emergency, it's the cabinet that takes charge. And their power doesn't stop there. It goes right into lawmaking and, maybe most importantly, the country's money. The cabinet introduces almost every single major bill that goes to Parliament, something like 95% of them. They're the ones who prepare the annual budget. They can even advise the president to dissolve the Lok Sabha, which means, yep, time for a new election. They pretty much control the whole agenda. Now, with all of this incredible power, you have to ask, right? Who keeps them in check? Well, there are rules to this game. And this is where we talk about how this powerful A team is held accountable for everything it does. It all comes down to this one huge constitutional principle: collective responsibility. It sounds kind of formal, but the idea is actually pretty simple. It means they are all in it together. The entire team is responsible for every single government decision. You can't have a minister disagreeing with a policy in public. They win as a team and they lose as a team. They sink or swim together. And what's the ultimate penalty? What happens if the team messes up so badly that the Lok Sabha, the house elected by the people, loses faith in them? Well, they can pass something called a vote of no confidence. And if that happens, it's game over. Not just for one person, but for the entire ministry. The Prime Minister and everyone on the team has to pack their bags and go home. But wait, there's a flip side to this coin. While they operate as a team,
Each minister is also individually responsible for their own department. They have to stand up in Parliament and answer tough questions about how their ministry is performing. If there's a failure, they're the one in the hot seat. So it's this really interesting balance of teamwork and personal accountability.
There's a famous quote that just perfectly nails this entire idea. It says, "The cabinet is the pivot around which the whole administration revolves." It's not just another part of the government. It really is the very core that everything else turns on. All right, you've been listening so well. Now it's time for a quick pop quiz. Let's see what you've picked up. First question, what is the single biggest difference between the cabinet and the much larger Council of Ministers? Think about size and power. And one more for you. This one's a biggie. In just one simple sentence, how would you explain collective responsibility? Remember that sink or swim idea we talked about? Getting this one right is super important. And finally, let's get a little creative. A thought experiment to leave you with. Now that you know how all this works, if you were the Prime Minister, what would be the absolute first policy that you and your cabinet would create for the country? It's a pretty cool question to think about.